will show you a couple things that we haven't covered. So until now we have used spotlights and area lights, and maybe you used directional light, which is kind of like the sun, which might help you in here. May or may not. Well, you'll have to figure it out as you go. But let me change here back to modeling, and I'm just gonna put a plane in here so we have something, and maybe another plane on this front view, so we have something to look at. And then we have used those two lights. We haven't used the lights in Arnold other than the sky dome or physical sky for the truck, but there's a couple more lights in here that I want to show you. So the area light is basically the same than the area light in the Maya lights. So when you go create here, there's your area light. They're exactly the same. The only difference is that this area light has an Arnold section that's down here, where you would mess with the exposure to actually see the light. And the Arnold area light, that section is at the top. So if you go area light, see this, the exposure is right here. That's the only difference. Again, the light's super weak. When you create it, it almost emits no light. So if you turn on the render here and hit play, you can barely even see it. So if I crank up the exposure, you start seeing something, right? And it only lets you go up to 5. Remember, you can type a bigger number in here. So if you go 20, you know, that's too much, obviously. But you can use this little slider here to go back and change your color here. You're probably wondering, why don't you use the intensity? Sometimes it doesn't do any difference when I move the intensity, especially with the Maya lights. It doesn't do much. So I prefer using the exposures a little bit quicker. But anyway, so you've used this light already. What other lights haven't you played with? So we'll create one of those right now. So let's say you have something on your scene that you want emitting light, like a lamp or a gem or I don't know, a TV screen, something like that. There's another light called mesh light, and I'm just going to create something here to emit light. So I'm going to drag a cylinder here and put it on my scene. The typical, I guess it could be a lightsaber or something like that. And when you have a mesh with it selected, you can go to Arnold and say, I want this mesh to become a light. Or let's say it's a lamp. If it was metal and then glass, I would separate the glass part from the metal. How would you do that? You go mesh, edit mesh, separate the polygons you want to be the lamp part, and you say extract. That would make 2 objects. I'll show you that in a minute, but let's go back here and create a mesh light. So now it's a mesh light and it looks like nothing happened, right? So it's disappeared from my render. Where'd it go? You have to go in here and say, I want this light to be visible. So when you turn it on, it's there, it's barely emitting any light. So I'm going to crank up the exposure, and maybe so you can see the difference it makes, I'm going to make it a red color. So right now it's looking a little bit orange. If I type in here 10, you'll see the effect of it on the environment. So now it's lighting the environment red, right? So I can come down on brightness. So this is pretty useful for lamps, screens, TV screens, other things that might emit light for you. So this light is a little bit tricky to use sometimes, because if you look at the list of items on the scene, there's my planes, there's the area light I created, and in here you see the cylinder. And inside the cylinder is the light. And what's happened is Maya has duplicated the mesh, and one of them is the cylinder, and one of them is the light that has the same shape. So sometimes you move one by accident and leave the other one behind, and it doesn't work anymore. So you have to be careful with it that you move both things. The other thing is, people forget to turn on the light visibility, so we don't see it. So don't forget to do that. So right now the light's not there because I had the visibility turned off. But if you turn it back on, yeah, there's my light. For noir film, it will help a lot to create mood on the scene if you place a little bit of fog. You don't have to do this, but it helps a lot. So I'm going to open the render settings. Remember, render settings is open with this movie slate with the gear on it, or the cogwheel. And then you go from common to environment on the Arnold render tab. Environment, and on the side of atmosphere, you click on this, the checker box here, and say create atmospheric volume. And it's gonna look, oh, where did my render window go? It disappeared. I'll open it again, but you'll see this change. The attribute window will open right here, and you'll see density. This is the density of that fog. So I'm gonna close this. I don't need it for now, and I'm going to open the render again. And this is super sensitive, so I'm going to leave it at 0, 0. I'm going to put 3 in here, so 3 zeros after the point. And I'm going to reload this. I hit play, so I can barely see anything, and it's really sensitive. So go careful, or you'll see a bunch of white and no scene. So now there's some fog in there, and I can see where the area light is and the light that is being emitted by the mesh light, right? There's one more light in here. It's called photometric light, and this is technically a spotlight, but it's a little bit fancier of a spotlight. So when you put it on, you will see nothing happening really. Okay, so like it's not doing anything to the scene. Even if I crank it up, nothing's gonna happen because it's missing a photometry file. So if you go online and look for Arnold photometric, you can use just a regular spotlight, but if you want to be fancy, we can use the Autodesk photometric light Arnold. So you'll find it in there. What these lights do, they're a little bit different than a regular cone light. You know, this is the lights you would see when you go like a kitchen remodel display. You have different cones of light. So one will have a big cone and a pillar inside, a bunch of fancy cones. You know, this one looks like a star almost. So these are real lights from real life. So you have to download the what's it called, the profile, and they're right here. You can see the link is right here. Example profiles can be downloaded here. So I'm going to download it, and I'm going to put it on the desktop. And when you find it on the desktop, you have to unzip it. So right click on it and say extract all. We'll extract, and these are all the profiles, and you can remember the number. Let's see, let me go back to let me close this. Where's my profiles? Right here. So you can look at them and say, okay, I like number 8. It's pretty fancy. So 8 is right there. I'm going to go back to my Maya scene, and I have my photometric light. It's not doing anything. So on the photometry file, I'm going to click on the folder here to the right to get the profile. Go to the desktop. Oh, they're there. 8, and load it. So now I have the same cone in there. Maybe I need to crank the exposure more, and maybe make my mesh light a little weaker so it's not so overpowering. Okay, so now you can actually see, oh, I am getting that. It will take a little longer to render. It's a little more complicated than just the regular cone light, but you'll see the same pattern you saw on that preview. So it has the cone outside and the pillar inside and a bunch of little pillars in the middle. It just makes your renders slower because the quality of it, is higher. So this will create a little bit more mood, using mesh lights, maybe photometric lights if you want, or you can just use cone lights, the area lights. Lights that are not too powerful or that create a lot of shadows are expensive to render, or they take longer, I would say. So you probably want characters on your scene. You're probably copying a scene from a movie that has characters on it. So we're going to add one, and I'll show you how to add one really quickly here and get it to work. So if you change your drop-down menu from modeling to rigging, and then we're going to go into the skeleton. See how your top menu changed. We're going to go into skeleton. In here we're going to create a rig, but first we need a person inside of it, or a mesh, right? So if you go to Windows and say content browser, we can just grab one of these examples from here. So in the content browsers, you'll have a bunch of tabs. You want the example ones, modeling, sculpting base meshes, bipeds, and in here you'll see a few meshes you can use. So let's grab this one, the female, and it's going to be huge. This is up to scale in real life. So, and this mesh, or this grid I should say, is 1 centimeter per square, so it's pretty small. And lights you probably want to use in real world scale. I'm gonna let you do it small because it's faster to render than, especially if you have an older computer, it won't be able to handle it. So let me just move this background a little bit further back. Okay, so it's very important that before we do anything to a character to rig it, we freeze the transformations on it and delete the history. So I'm going to freeze the transformations, which basically says you scale it down, and I want to say no, that's my default. So if you hit freeze transformations here or on modify freeze transformations, it does the same. It sets that to its default scale. Now the skeleton can go on this character, so we're going to go skeleton, quick rig. So what this is going to do is open this window that lets me create a skeleton. They're not that great, so do not use it on your animation class. You'll get failed, just so you know. On your 3D rigging class, the teacher will get mad at you. So what we're going to do is do step by step. So if we click on step by step and say I want to create a new character rig, a new quick rig, you'll see this window pop up. You've probably seen it. What is this little guy for up here? It's for this window. So on the first step, what we had to do is add a geometry, which we had selected. So you hit plus, then create guides. So the guides, what they do is places a few spheres here to tell you where the bones are going to end, or where the joints are. So if you think about your elbow, it's probably not in the middle of your forearm, so you want to move it to where your forearm is. Same with the hand, kind of where the wrist ends and the hand starts. And you only want to fix one side. You don't want to do both. Just fix one. You'll never match them. So just look at it and see if the joints are placed on the right spot. So this is the neck, or probably a little higher. And that's the head. And with the knees, you don't want them on a straight line, because Maya won't know which way to bend the knees, and might bend them backwards like a chicken, like this. So you kind of want to give it a bit of a clue which way they're going to bend. So if there was lines in here, you kind of want to point the knees forward a little bit, so Maya knows which way they bend, and maybe a little higher in here. So the hips here behind, knee in front, ankle a little bit back. And that's it. So we just fixed the one side. If you go to step 3, there's this icon with the dotted circle. If you click on that, that selects all the guides, and then you can copy the one side to the other. So in this case, I fixed the left side. I want it to the right side, so I'm going to do this and see, it moved the other guides for me. I didn't have to do it by hand. And then step 4 is just click and it creates a skeleton and control rig, which should be fairly easy. There it is. And step 5, you just skin, which means you join the mesh to the bones and actually puts weights on them so they move with the bones. So it's doing that now. It is done. So I can close this window now and I can test the rig. So you see the bones in here, but also Maya's created. The bones are non-selected and there's a couple references here. Usually what you do is you move the control rig, which is these circles. The circles and the squares. So there's one for the hips here. There's a little one for the waist to move it. The stars to point the knees one way or the other, and this is the ankle. So what you do is you don't want to be clicking on the middle here on the bone, because you'll be selecting the mesh and not the bone, and it takes a lot of time. That's why they put a rig on it, so you can select just the circles. So now with this, you can move the joints and kind of get them to do what you want. This that I'm doing here is called inverse kinematics. So if you think about the arm as a chain of bones, this would be the base, right? The shoulder, then it goes to elbow, and then it goes to wrist. So back in the day, we would have to post things like that. We would have to rotate the shoulder, rotate the arm, and then rotate the hand. So that was forward kinematics. But now to help us do things a little quicker, we have inverse kinematics, which you grab the end of the chain and pull that around to move it, right? That makes things a little bit easier. It's more like a marionette, I guess. It's a little bit easier to post things. Then you have the hip control here, which bends the knees. There's a bone here at the floor that doesn't let you go past the floor. But with this, you can pose your character. By default, it might be set up to move the whole body with the controller here, and that is controlled in here. So if you see, there's 3 little guys in here. The first one is to select the parts of the joints but not be able to move them. The second one is to move the extremity but not pull the body with it. So see, I can pull the arm, but it stops on the length of the arm. It doesn't let me go any past that. And then the last one, which is what we have, is to move the whole body with the extremity. So typically when you move and you're reaching for something, your whole torso twist with the reaching, so this is a little more natural. Then we have the skeleton, which is hidden for now. And you can see it's right here. It's hidden, we don't see it. It looks exactly like the other bones, but if you turn it on, there it is. The size is huge, so you could go in here and say display, and somewhere, oh, there it is, an animation is under joint size. So you can, if their joints are too big, you can make them smaller, so they're more manageable. So if you don't see them and you wanted to add fingers, rig for the face, you would need those turned on in here. You're not gonna be messing with that. That's for your animation class. So let's turn those off again, and we'll just have the references to the bones. So with this, you'll be able to pose your character. If you want it to not move anymore, you can duplicate the mesh. So if I select the mesh, and then duplication would be edit duplicate, or let's see, right there, or Control D. I just use the shortcut Control D. But if you duplicate it, you'll have the same mesh, or 2 meshes. You see there's woman in here and the other woman is right here, so I have 2 of them. The one I duplicated is selected now. So if you try to move it, you won't be able to. It's locked. So if you open the channel box on the top right and select all this and then right click and say unlock, now I can move my duplication. So this character set, it will never move again. You know, I can delete the history and it's like it never had any animation. Okay, so that's why you always delete your history before you animate anything. It will delete your animation if you do it afterwards. So with this, you'll be able to post your characters. So if I hit play in here, you know, I have my characters on the scene now. So let me move this back a little bit and kind of replicate the light. Add the fog at the very end because that slows down your renders quite a bit. So I would leave that for the very end for the atmospheric fog. So you're not waiting on the render so long. But yeah, so find a movie you like, and copy the lighting from it. That should be a little more fun than just the example I gave. Let's adjust this light a bit and make it brighter. There we go, maybe even more. Yeah, so that looks a little more cinematic now. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to help you. Don't suffer in silence. Just communicate with me or your classmates in Discord.